people who aren't familiar, A&R people are kind of like people that go out and scope out talent, and traditionally they've been able to, they went to like live performances and shows and like found new up and coming artists, and then would hopefully their mission was to try and sign the next big thing. The argument that's been happening as of lately is that like what their actual value is now, given the climate with social media and just how music is released these days. So the article that I found was just more or less about what the grind of an A&R artist actually is now, and how it's really more intertwined with the marketing side of the industry. So curious as to what you guys think about this. The idea is that A&R guys now, or people now, are just they're kind of skimming social media and finding people that are blowing up in that world, but also still kind of doing the more traditional route. But they're kind of looking for a few different aspects now, because it's less about artist development now when they're signing deals, and it's more about like
view counts and followers, maybe
to an extent, but more just about how savvy you are on social media. And if the music is good, then there's still like there's still like that, like they're predominantly focused on how good the music is and how marketable it is.
I think I don't think that's that crazy at all. Like, it's just the way of the times now. Like, how else? That's the quickest way to find new artists, right?
Yeah, it's
that caveat that, like, also we're not just looking for if your music is good or marketable. We're also looking for the other factor of, like, can you do TikTok dances as well? Yeah. Or if you
Yeah, or just how creative you are with your advertising.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, and are you on top of your analytics, because they're always on top of that kind of stuff, because they want to know that they're protecting their investment, where traditionally A&R people weren't so involved in the marketing side. But now, because the way social media is integrated with everything, they are kind of on top of that. I'm just curious, Chuck, with your education, you might have some more background on what it was traditionally versus what it is now,
I forwarded this article over to Daniel, and I just gotta say that big Dua Lipa fan. It had a bunch of, they were referencing Dua Lipa in this scenario.
They did, yes.
And she crushes it. So, I mean, I think that was the story about how she put out so many albums before she finally broke internationally and came over here. And that's kind of the idea of like
8 releases. That's insane.
8 albums?
I don't know if it's albums or that's what I was curious about. If it was albums or like
well, still,
or
that's
singles.
Pretty crazy. But like, I'm like 8 albums until someone figured out.
Yeah.
If it was 8 singles, then that's, I mean, not that it's not impressive, but 8 albums does sound pretty
8 albums sounds insane.
Yeah. But
especially in a the music industry is saying that the album isn't necessarily the way to release music. It's more music, less music more frequently.
Exactly.
Compared to releasing an album. Us as artists, though, it's like there's this nostalgia of putting together a 44-minute piece of art and perfection, of 22 minutes on each side of a record that really you can sit down and you have to listen to the whole thing. It's a kind of a trip in the journey. But like now, man, I'm definitely partly addicted to scrolling, like I get in the scroll hole. Is that what it's called?
Scroll hole, I love that. Yeah.
100%. A lot of band names in this podcast, for sure, though.
Man. Yo, if you guys want some band names, I'll have our bass player Glenn send you his notes. He's got a couple hundred for you.
Yeah, so is Bill over here.
Do I.
They're pretty dark, too. There's some good ones. There's some bad ones. I think number one is if there's talent, you can recognize that, and that's part of the thing is like Daniel has some serious talent that I want to be able to absorb, and people are like, we're always creating energy. I'm passing on certain energy to him right now. He's passing on certain energy to me. We're passing it on to you. You're passing it on to us. Like you can feel and hear talent, like you can see it, like it's undeniable. When you start to get people to recognize that, that's where the A&R thing really comes into play, is when they can see that talent, and then the record labels or the industry knows how to manipulate that talent into creating somebody a career. That's their job, is to find somebody with a gift, whether that is someone that already had $1 million business, like you said earlier, or somebody that can sing like absolutely insane or play guitar out of this world. But they're still looking for talent, whether it's acting or comedy, whatever it may be. Maybe they make great short films or something, But I think looking for good art, and that's why I'm a big fan of people like Jack Conte and Jack Stratton. Jack Conte's from Pomplamoose and Scary Pockets. He also is the CEO of Patreon.
I didn't know that.
That makes
Jack
sense.
Stratton. Yeah, I mean, the guy's a freaking genius. I'm trying to make my little camera studio setup as functional as his
Feel that.
Instagram post of his setup here.
For real.
Jack Stratton from Wolfpack's an absolute genius, you know, and they have all these friends with all this talent, and they're now figuring out how to, you know, leverage that themselves where they don't necessarily have to go to a record label or a mainstream outlet to be able to put that out there. They're creating platforms that are in the artist's best interest, such as Patreon. And if your thing is like you create the most awesome content, or you're making 8 albums, maybe if Dua Lipa had 8 albums and she had a diehard fan base on Patreon, maybe that's, you know, what is success? That's where you get to what is success? What is it to you? I used to just say, I want to play guitar in a different city every night. And that was my idea of success and what I wanted to do with my life. You know, over time, some things have changed here and there. You do a couple pivots.
Totally.
But you know, it's like, with the whole A&R thing, the game has definitely changed from, like I was mentioning, those famous bars back in the day that A&R guys would just go to in frickin' what is it? West LA? I'm not from LA, but is that where the whiskey was? Where everybody
Whiskey A Go-Go.
famous ever played, you know, and they go and break the next biggest band.
I like
If
watching.
you could play there, you were breaking.
Yeah, I like watching. Rewatch Purple Rain because that's like the whole movie. It's like they're gonna kill it this night, and there's gonna be this just A&R guy in the crowd and everything like that. But that's just how it was in the 80s. I suppose.
Well, it's interesting that it's kind of refreshing to hear that kind of still exists, because for a long time people have been talking about that dynamic has gone away. But it's nice to hear that's still happening. And then also, even with the age of social media, that if this article is true, the A&R reps are still looking at predominantly the talent versus the other stuff, because, you know, I think there may have been a lull there with labels and how streaming worked when it was kind of becoming the main thing. There may have been a lull with labels and how they're able to recoup their investment, you know, less artist development, and just kind of the labels are figuring out how they were going to pivot. But now I feel like they've got a better grasp on like how the industry is working now in the modern landscape, and it's kind of going like, okay, well, traditional roles now still exist in the capacity that they did, but now there's just maybe a new element that they might be checking out, like the social media thing for sure. Like, are you savvy on social media? But like, are you also like aware of your numbers and, you know, like how well may be able to market yourself? So it's just one more aspect, just kind of tagging on to the artist thing nowadays, where you have to be multifaceted.
I don't even think that it's tagging on. It's just like one medium died, which was CD sales, and now it's a new one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess you could call that tagging on. But like,
Well,
that's
it's
just gone.
as far as what they're looking for from the artist, there's just one more aspect that they want to see.
Because like, how many times have you like in the 2000s and 90s and stuff like that? An album would come out from like a brand new musician, and you would just buy that album so you could have that one song on it.
Yeah.
That's an old, outdated model, and no one's doing that anymore. So it does make sense that it's giving out singles and stuff like that.
Yeah.